My name is Dr. Mike Denninger, and I'm the creator of Multichannel Eye Movement Integration. And I welcome you to this first in the series of what I hope will be many podcast interviews related to the implementation of multi-channel eye movement integration, or MEMI, as we call it for short. And here with me today is Joachim Lee. Joachim, just to be transparent, we are not meeting for the first time. Joachim and I have known each other for a while now. And I should add that, let me see, we met in 2021, is that correct, Joachim?
2021, correct.
Okay. And in fact, Joachim is our licensed multi-channel eye movement integration trainer in South Asia. And I'm hoping, Joachim, that you can tell our viewers a little bit about how we met. How did that all unfold?
Well, to give a TikTok version like what they say today, right? I was looking around for an effective approach to trauma recovery. So I was scouting the literature and training, and we shared. I mean, I did share with you back then that I'm training many of the eye movement integration work, all sorts of therapy I've been trained, but the outcomes were just not what I wanted or what my clients didn't experience the change that they wanted. So then by chance, I didn't give up hope. And through my search, I found your book that you published. I said, this is interesting. And the more I read it, I said, something here. But then I think, then I emailed to you and we chatted. And and then it's like, okay, then I attended your training online. And that's when, like they say, I just ran with that after that. It's like the experience of MEMI and experience my clients experience, how they felt were tremendous. It's like, if I don't mind sharing one of the high points when I first used MEMI with one of my patients.
Sure.
She was someone that she flew from the US to see me. So she flew down, and the story goes that her infant baby was murdered. He was a premeditated murder. Anyway, so she came to see me about 9 months, 6 or 9 months later. Literally, you see she was in a state of suspended mode animation. She was neither going forward or backward. She was just in that freeze mode. And for me, I was stuck. Okay, I know so many approaches, and it's like, how can I be a most effective? Because I wanted her to experience a relief of a trauma. So I introduced MEMI to her. She agreed. We did the MEMI, and at the end of the whole process, she felt so relieved. And of all the many things she said to me, the one that stood up for me was that, Joachim, I don't know what happened. I know, and I can feel I can grieve normally now.
I can grieve now.
I can grieve now. It's like as if she was in a pause button and it just couldn't be unpaused. It took just that one session with MEMI to allow her to grieve. I saw for one more session in terms of just working on other issues. But interesting thing is this: the husband came to pick her up that morning. That after the session, he came into the room. He saw her. He looked at me. He was like, as if he was in a state of what just happened. He looked at me and he blurted out, "What happened to my wife?" And the wife straight away told him, "See Joachim tomorrow. Make sure you see him. He helped me so much." And that's when for me, I said, yes, MEMI is the approach that I finally found that can really bring about the changes in clients effectively and I'll say very quickly. No need for the long drawn approach to therapy, which I was trained traditionally. They experienced immediate relief from the trauma.
And that all happened in one session,
In
right?
one session, yes. Last year, she texted me and she said, I just gave birth to another child.
Oh, wow.
She said, I've moved on in my life, even though I still remember my baby that died, but she always lived with her in her heart, and she said, I've moved on, and she's been interesting. She's one of my main supporters. She's been referring so many of her friends to me.
That's pretty amazing. And this might be a good time for me to mention that you have 3 letters after your name: Joachim Lee PBM.
PBM.
And I understand that that's an honorary title. Tell us about that.
Okay. So PBM is in Malay it's called Pingat Bakti Masyarakat. English is called the Public Service Award. So the Public Service Award is a annual um, on National Day in Singapore, where the President of Singapore would confer this award to people who have made significant contribution for many years in Singapore. Um, so I've been contributing to nation building for almost, when I got it, it was almost about 16 years of contribution. And somehow it got recognized that the president recognized, saw what I was doing, and he conferred the award to me. I
Wow.
wasn't expecting it, and even the way I got it was surprising because I didn't know I got it.
Really?
Until my friends called me, check the newspaper, your name is there. I said, what's happening? And they said, oh, I didn't know I got it. And I doubted myself, Mike, you do believe it? I doubted myself. I called one of the government officials who was running this. I said, are you sure there wasn't a mistake? Then he said, is it in the Prime Minister's office, our website? Yes. Then you got it. Took me some time to accept the fact that I was given this award.
Wow. That says a lot about your service, doesn't it?
It's a passion to wanting to help individuals to overcome their struggles. I think that's what drives me, and also that what drives the way I'm constantly upgrading myself. And if you know the amount of trainings I've gone through, and after learning MEMI, I said, I think I got everything now. It's just how to string MEMI and understanding it, and how if I need to see how my other trainings may supplement the work that I do, primarily with MEMI now.
Of course, of course. And as you know, with MEMI, you can actually use it with other forms of therapy
Yes,
without a difficulty, right?
yes. It sort of integrates seamlessly. And
Mm.
even when it's halfway, I can just weave in a bit of other intervention, and it's as if it just fits perfectly.
Hmm. Well, I'm pleased to hear that, of course, right?
Of course. And I'm
So
pleased to
let's
have been taught by you.
thank you. So let's get to know a little bit about you personally.
Hmm.
Um, Give us a sense of your roots or what shaped you when you were growing up. How did you get to be where you are now?
Oh, that would need a thick volume. Can you believe it? Until the age of 4 years old, I refused to talk. I refused to utter a single word. So my parents thought I was deaf and dumb. I mean, I grew up in the 60s, so I was thought I was deaf and dumb, and I refused to talk. And 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 I grew up with this sense that I wasn't comfortable in my body, that I hated being born, and it was just as if I didn't want to exist. So my whole life was literally trying to figure out what is going on with me. Of course, today when I look back, it's definitely trauma. I mean, I didn't have a perfect childhood. It was rough. And a child of the 60s, um, there'll be a lot of punishment, physical punishment. And I
Uh-huh.
grew up in that experience where every day was just receiving a lot of physical punishment, that added into I don't want to be here. So with that desire that I want to be out of it, I was also driven towards understanding myself. So I can remember at the age of 12 years old, the first book I read on therapy was on Sigmund Freud. Can you believe it? Because my parents had this encyclopedia of all the great minds, and one whole volume was just on Sigmund Freud. And I read that book. I didn't understand it, but it intrigued me, and that began sort of my initial journey towards understanding myself through a lot of ups and downs, struggles. So what shaped
Mm.
me was um, that pain I experienced, and yet at the same time a resilience of not wanting to give up, of trying to make sense of what's going on and make sense of the purpose and meaning of my life. So that became the journey, the starting point to where I am today.
Wow, it sounds like you're still on that journey.
I think the journey never ends because it's always constantly, because now my journey has shifted. Probably a new chapter is how can I help others now? It's not about me now. I think the point I know where I am. I know my role in the world, and it's now just how can I help others to even find them the anchor in the world,
Mm.
and also which means helping them to resolve the trauma or their uncertainty in life. What's going on with them?
Mhm.
And
It
again,
sounds like a search for identity.
the search for identity. Yes.
Mhm. Um, you've from reading your bio and talking to you over time, you've had a lot of training.
Too
You're,
many
well, I don't know, you have NLP, neuro-linguistic programming
programming,
training. You're a hypnotherapist, and you are trained in the Gottman technique for couples
couples
counseling.
therapy. Yes.
Um, Tell us what has been important to you before you got to MEMI.
hmm
What were you doing in therapy? How were you approaching your work?
Before MEMI, it was a lot of talk involved of trying to understand what was triggering the issue. So just add more piece of information. My first training was actually in Jungian psychoanalysis.
Okay.
I was even the president of the developmental group in Singapore, funded by the International Association. So primarily my work back then was literally helping them to find the meaning with themselves by exploring their childhood, exploring how patterns evolve over time and how the patterns are constantly being played out in the present. So a lot of insights involved, a lot of strategic approaches in terms of exploring ways to overcome the patterns that are blocking them. So I spent a
Mhm.
lot of time, even my hypnotherapy work back then was after helping them to be in a state of trance where they are focused in addressing the issue. It was again identifying the issues and then befriending those parts that have been sort of disowned. So it was a long drawn process. Even when I used CBT, was also exploring schemas. So a lot of it was just love, cognition, insight, and helping them to understand who they are in today's world. So a lot of that.
Okay.
And of course, the outcomes, typical treatment would take at least minimally 12 sessions and above.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're talking about cognitive forms of therapy, right?
Yes,
CBT,
correct.
you mentioned.
CBT, yeah, and yeah, some even though some experiential is still, I mean, end of this, giving them better insight, understanding into how they think and how they act and how they feel.
Hmm. And those are top-down
Yes,
therapies, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely right. Very top down. Even when in
Hmm.
the past I thought by doing hypnosis or doing a bottoms up approach, but in hindsight, it was still a top down because I was first of all getting them to focus and then uh, using their mind to get themselves in a different state. It was still very top down because they still need the cognition, they still need to be focused, they still need to be able to talk about issues. So it's very top down.
Right. And when you do MEMI, it's not top-down, right?
Yes, it's very. I when I teach memory, I say now it's very limbic. Um, because it's limbic because it's not about how you understand what you're thinking, but literally just allowing the limbic system or the amygdala and hippocampus to literally just re, to review the issues that have been running, a pattern been running without adding in any other narratives, and just allowing the brain by retrieving data, right? Um, the brain reorganize itself. So I see very limbic, and the research has shown it's very limbic. I mean, one of the things I shared with you is that to validate the work I do with MEMI,
Yeah.
the limbic work, I use a clinical cue. So among my other trainings, I'm also a neurotherapist. So which means I do neurofeedback. I do EEG analysis, which means I put electrodes on the scalp to look for brainwave signatures that will indicate trauma and stress. So when I use it in my analysis, my research with trauma clients, a pre and post, even the brain signature changes. from a trauma signature from the midpoint CZ and at the back O1 occipital lobe number one. After MEMI, when I do a post another analysis of the brain with a, it's as if you see two different brain signatures, and the client will respond feedback that it's over. I don't experience the same trauma. It's as if I'm. One lady even said, "It's as if I'm just watching it through a TV screen." It's like
Wow.
one was just also I'm just it's like it's a small TV screen, I'm just looking at it. And
Hmm.
so again, so I find maybe the difference is bottoms up, it's limbic. And the data from my data is that the brain signature changes drastically.
Wow. So, if we can talk a little bit more about MEMI now
Hmm.
too, we have been talking about it, but how has MEMI really changed what you do every day as a therapist, a trauma therapist?
It's given me a lot of confidence. That's number one. It's
Uh-huh.
like now, and because it's limbic, it's not me trying to hold the issue and trying to understand it. It's me understanding what's happening in the brain and then how to facilitate the therapy dissociation. So it's been very liberating for me.
Mm.
And even being emotionally drained, I don't get it now compared to in the past when I was doing talk therapy, the top down. It was draining. I mean, I was struggling session just to hold the issues while helping. With Memi, it's literally okay. I'm just there, projected, and we do the work. So it's liberating for me. I get refreshed, and typically I'm getting about 5 to 6 sessions a day now. So it's like, and I'm not tired. So people tell
Oh,
me, how
wow.
do you do it? You don't feel tired. I don't feel tired because Memi's limbic is very different from the typical traditional talk therapy that I do because requirement is talk therapy is to hold the emotions, to hold the cognition, and to reflect the meaning behind it, the pattern. So I need to think a lot. I need to process a lot with my patients. Whereas with Memi, it's recognizing what's happening and then reflecting that to them what I'm observing.
Exactly. Wow. So tell me, in MEMI, there are basically four elements that we track, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is thoughts, one is context.
Context.
But, but can you describe how thoughts in MEMI is different from cognitions in, top-down therapies? What's the difference between those?
Well, in talk therapy, when it comes to cognition, I'm looking for in terms of the cognitive error, how they view themselves, and I need to then address the faulty thinking. If I use traditional CBT, I'm doing that the schema that they have, and then understanding how they come to this conclusion and to dispute it. There's a lot of work. Where with MEMI, it's just understanding when you with this experience, what your thoughts about it is just having that cognition that they have before we start. And after each process, it's like, and what do you think about it now? I see in terms of even the shift, if I can share another quick story, I know I'm taking a lot of time.
Yes.
I think this will encapsulate it so well. This lady was referred as a last hope. And all the therapists have rejected her. Even a trauma expert told her that your grief is so complex. Resolve your grief first and see me for trauma work. Okay, so she was stunned. So out of desperation, she saw me. She was a mother of four. Two of her children died. One at 1 week old, one at 6 years old. Two girls
Mm.
died. Only left were her two boys and a husband. So when I saw her, she was like, I can't let go. I can't let go. I miss them. If I'm a bad mother. So her cognition was horrible. Her thoughts about self schema was bad, and she said, I can't move on until my God gives my resurrect my kids back to life. Okay, so I mean, I didn't challenge her cognition. I mean, it's not the right thing to do. I think
Right.
traditionally BT will address that, the errors. I held that, and then when she was ready, which with her first session was just grounding her because she had a lot of angst about a different therapy that she went for. So first session was just that. So when she came to do the MEMI, the second session, or my first session for MEMI, at the end of it, her cognition from it's my fault, I can't let go, I can't move on. Her cognition changed to she looked at me after the session, Joachim, I just got understanding. Okay, what is it? I think I need to pause grieving my daughter. I think I'm grieved enough. I think it's time now I should live for my husband and my two kids. Just
Wow.
that statement for it, whoa, her cognition changed from I can't move on to I have a life, a purpose to move on.
The cognition changed
Her cognition
automatically.
changed automatically. I didn't even have to address it. I didn't have to challenge the cognitive errors that she had or how she was holding on so dearly to a certain schema. I
Hmm.
just allowed the limbic work to resolve itself. Automatically, a cognition change. And that's what I like about MEMI is like I don't have to do the traditional CBT
Hmm.
or even cognition when I come from a psychodynamic perspective. I don't have to do that because it automatically updates itself. It's as if they have this internal system of knowing how they can see the world from a lens that's not traumatized.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your plans for the next, say, year or two. What do you have on the horizon?
Well, I mean, one of the things I would like to do is to expose Mammy to the profession of the doctor, um, who may not know what's Mammy or don't understand the difference that Mammy has to offer compared to the other eye movement therapies. So that's one of my mission. And good news is that in August, a group of psychiatrists and psychologists uh, in the hospitals are keen to learn MEMI. So there's one in the horizon, and I tend to do that more so that doctors are aware how they can refer patients. That's one. In terms of MEMI, I want to see how to spread it um, more to Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, um, the best I can. I'm just one person. It's also getting the right context in those countries and to see how I can offer it so they can experience memory. So with that, many people can experience the healing that they badly need.
Hmm.
And one more thing I can add is that memory is cost effective. You don't need a long drawn therapy, um, right? I mean, we know that it can change as fast as one session or maybe one, two, or up to three. So that will help a lot of individuals who may not afford therapy use long
Hmm.
term. So my plan is that to sort of train more people in a field so that they can share the good news and be agents of change.
That's something you've probably been thinking about doing for quite a while, huh?
Yes. And one more thing I did say that I plan to do a workbook or user guide to many to complement your book. At least then for those who, okay, after reading your book, okay, then how to put it to practice even more in more depth than that. So that's one of my plans, which I intend to do this year. I did share that I will once I settle all this stuff. It's on the horizon. It's in my mind now.
So, just before we come to a close here, I wanted to ask you if I know that you teach also, that you train graduate students who are
Hmm.
going into counseling careers.
Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
what do you tell them about this or about anything? Has that view changed at all?
It has changed tremendously. And so one of the things I tell new graduates is learn your theories, learn your technique, um, but always also see it in light of what the science talks about it, the neuroscience, in terms of so how does the limbic work complement or is in contrast to what you're learning. So don't just be biased. I need to do this theories, and no matter what, I'm going to apply this technique. It's first of all understanding the individual that you need to understand and need to understand from the limbic perspective. So I've been stressing that a lot to a new graduate. Um, that pause, recognize it, and don't be just too quick to just run. And no matter what bulldoze or technique, you just understanding the limbic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's so important because um, students coming out of graduate school, they have a sampling of all of the therapies, and if without further guidance, they tend to go with one or the other, and they can spend 5, 10 years with one therapy without ever really understanding
Understanding, yes, correct.
neuroscience, like you say.
Yes.
Um, well, if you switch it up now, and you're not talking about new graduates, but you're talking about seasoned therapists. So suppose somebody comes to you and says, I'm just stuck. I'm in a rut. This therapist that they maybe they have 20 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to them about what's important?
Well, surprisingly, you ask me this because this coming week, on Wednesday to start, I'll be training a group of senior therapists in who are doing the master's, the specialization after the master's. They've gone the master's degree now. They're doing a specialization on couples therapy. I'll be training them on Gottman. However, even though I'm teaching them on Gottman approach, I'll be stressing with this group of seasoned therapists again. I know you're going to find this is so difficult to understand it. Pause and understand what happens in a person's brain. I'll be literally going through the same things with the seasoned therapist, but I find the seasoned therapist, because of the years of bad conditioning, if I can put it that way, they
Yeah.
may be a bit more resistant, or so I'll be spending a bit more time explaining to them how you explain it in your work instead of how the amygdala, the hippocampus, and how that creates that traumatic memory. That we need to first pause and help them you need to understand what's going on in the brain. Because I'm
Mhm.
teaching these seasoned therapists who are marital counselors, how the dynamic being played, how couples re-traumatize themselves and each other. And again, going back to what is happening in the limbic system. And with seasoned therapists, I tend to also do a demonstration in front of them to look, you're saying this, let's do a demonstration now of it. And on the spot, I'll do it. And I'm yet to hear someone say, nonsense, rubbish. It's like, wow, something happened.
Yeah.
So it's the same starting position. It's just one, they're more open because they're still newbies, still, whereas another more seasoned, I need to tap in with a lot more understand from science, and you need to also experience it firsthand. How understand the limbic system is so important. And from limbic system, is then I always mention how MEMI is actually very a powerful tool that we
Mhm.
can understand how MEMI works. You don't need a long drawn various psychological jargons to explain it because it's free from all jargon. It's just literally going straight into the limbic system and how the brain rewires itself.
Well, Joachim, it's been my pleasure to have this chat with you. And I certainly look forward to our work together because it's been a pleasure to this point. Now, is there anything that you wanted to add here at the end that is important to you before we finish?
This may sound like a rah-rah moment, but frankly speaking, after going through so many trainings, right? I mean, we heard a few today. Um, I'll say that for anybody who wants to do good trauma work or even good therapy to help to down-regulate the emotions, I would say that MEMI is a technique, an approach that everybody must learn. Because if you learn MEMI, you find that your work becomes easier. And just one quick point. When I teach the graduate that they learn MEMI, right? And they always say this, why didn't we learn MEMI earlier? I should have done a master's. We just gone straight into learning MEMI. I say, yes, but your master's qualification is like a driving license. You still need it. If you're a therapist, then when you learn MEMI, it just complements beautifully. So I'll say that MEMI, please, listeners, please learn MEMI because you will not regret it and you'll find that your confidence just skyrocket. It did with mine. I mean, I was confident before MEMI, but after MEMI, it's like
You took off, huh?
I I ran. I'm doing a marathon sprint and I'm not tired at all. I'm the Usain Bolt of Asia now.
Well, thank you so much. I've appreciated all of your support over time, but also the friendship and the work that we've been able to do together.
Thank you for entrusting Memi with me and to me in Asia. And it's like it's a privilege to be able to meet you. And I mean, our connection was just on the spot. We just connected, and I'm just wow, it's an awesome experience just learning from you and just growing Memi that you have developed through the profession that I'm dealing with in Singapore and beyond.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So, everybody, this brings us to a close. The first podcast, MEMI podcast, for people who have been trained or who are using MEMI, and look forward to many more. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.